Dolmabahçe Palace, located in the Beşiktaş district of Istanbul, Turkey, on the European coastline of the Bosphorus Strait, served as the main administrative center of the Ottoman Empire from 1856 to 1922, apart from a 22-year interval in which Yıldız Palace was used. Location: the site of Dolmabahçe was originally a bay on the Bosphorus which was used for the anchorage of the Ottoman fleet. The area was reclaimed gradually during the 18th century to become an imperial garden, much appreciated by the Ottoman sultans. It is from this garden that the name Dolmabahçe comes from, the Turkish dolma meaning filled, and bahçe meaning garden. Various small summer palaces and wooden pavilions were built here during the 18th and 19th centuries, ultimately forming a palace complex named Beşiktaş Waterfront Palace. The area of 110,000 square meters is confined by Bosphorus on the east side, while a steep precipice bounds it on the west side, such that after the building of the new 45,000 square meters monoblock Dolmabahçe Palace, a relatively limited space has remained for a garden complex which would normally surround such a palace. History: Dolmabahçe Palace was ordered by the empire's 31st Sultan, Abdülhamid I, and built between the years 1843 and 1856. Previously, the Sultan and his family had lived at the Topkapi Palace, but as the medieval Topkapi was lacking in contemporary style, luxury, and comfort, as compared to the palaces of the European monarchs, Abdülhamid decided to build a new modern palace near the site of the former Beşiktaş Palace, which was demolished. Hacı Aga was responsible for the construction works, while the project was realized by architects Garabet Balayan, his son Nigagayos Balayan, and Avanish Kalfa. The construction was financed through debasement, by massive issue of paper money, as well as by foreign loans. The huge expenses placed an enormous burden on the state purse and contributed to the deteriorating financial situation of the Ottoman Empire, which eventually slid into state bankruptcy with the subsequent establishment of financial control over the sick man of Europe by European powers. Dolmabahçe Palace was home to 6 sultans from 1856, when it was first inhabited, up until the abolition of the Caliphate in 1924. The last royal to live here was Caliph Abdülhamid Efendi. A law that went into effect on March 3, 1924 transferred the ownership of the palace to the national heritage of the new Turkish Republic. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder and first president of the Republic of Turkey, used the palace as a presidential residence during the summers and enacted some of his most important works here. Atatürk spent the last days of his medical treatment in this palace, where he died on November 10, 1938. Today, the palace is managed by Milli Saraylar Başkan Ligi, responsible to the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. The only way to see the interior of Dolmabahçe is with a guided tour. Design and layout: Dolmabahçe is the largest palace in Turkey. It has an area of 45,000 square meters, and contains 285 rooms, 46 halls, 6 baths and 68 toilets. The design contains eclectic elements from the Baroque, Rococo and Neoclassical styles, blended with traditional Ottoman architecture to create a new synthesis. The palace layout and decor reflect the increasing influence of European styles and standards on Ottoman culture and art during the Tanzimat period. The exterior, in particular the view from the Bosphorus, shows a classical European two-wing arrangement, which is divided by a big avant-cour with 2 side avant-cour. Functionally, on the other hand, the palace retains elements of traditional Ottoman palace life, and also features of traditional Turkish homes. It is strictly separated structurally in a southern wing which contains the public representation rooms, and a northern wing serving as the private residential area for the Sultan and his family. The two functional areas are separated by the big ceremonial hall with a floor area of 2,000 square meters and a 36 meters high dome. since the harem had to be completely isolated from the outside world. The main entrance for the visitors is located on the narrow southern side. There, the representation rooms are arranged for receptions of visitors and of foreign diplomats. The harem area includes 8 interconnected apartments for the wives of the Sultan, for his favorites and concubines, and for his mother, each with its own bathroom, cor and equipment. Whereas the Topkapi has exquisite examples of Iznik tiles and Ottoman carving, the Dolmabahçe Palace is extensively decorated with gold and crystal. The world's largest Bohemian crystal chandelier is in the ceremonial hall. The chandelier, a gift from Queen Victoria, has 750 lamps and weighs 4.5 tons. Dolmabahçe has the largest collection of Bohemian and Baccarat crystal chandeliers in the world. The famous crystal staircase has the shape of a double horseshoe and is built of Baccarat crystal, brass and mahogany. Expensive stones such as Marmara marble, Egyptian alabaster, and porphyry from Pergamon were used for the decoration. The palace includes a large number of Harik palace carpets made by the Harik Imperial Factory. Also featured a 150-year-old bearskin rugs originally presented to the Sultan as a gift by Tsar Nicholas I. A collection of 202 oil paintings is on display in the palace. A highlight of the collection are 23 paintings by Ivan Ayvazovsky which he created as a court painter during his stays in Istanbul. It includes his Up by Moonlight view of Egypt and Ottoman Navy in front of Sitagan Palace. There are also paintings by Gustave Boulanger, Jean-Éliacute Owen Garoma, Eugene Fromentin, Sandor Swoboda, Stanislaus Klebowski, Felix Ziem, Karl Kovacseg, Fausto Zonaro, and Theo van Rieselberger. In this art museum, there are also paintings by Turkish painters such as Osman Hamdi Bey, Halil Pasha, Osman Nuri Pasha, Sekret Ag, and Omar Ben Mustafa. In this art museum, from the very beginning, the palace's equipment implemented the highest technical standards. Gas lighting and water closets were imported from Great Britain, whereas the palaces in continental Europe were still lacking these features at that time. Later, electricity, a central heating system and an elevator were installed. Rooms. Med Hall. A visit to the Dolmabahçe Palace begins at the Med Hall. Rooms leading off the Med Hall are towards the sea and the land. The rooms facing the sea were used by the leading Ottoman officials, the Grand Vizier and the other state ministers, while the rooms facing the land were used by various administrators of the palace and the state, such as the palace marshal, Sihul, and members of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Guests would first wait in this hall and then would be led inside at the proper time by a palace protocol officer. On entering the Med Hall, one sees buhl tables on both sides of the room, which bear the monogram of Sultan Abdülhamid on top. The royal monogram of the Sultan is also on the fireplace. The English chandelier hanging in the middle of this room has 60 arms. The Harik fabrics used as upholstery for the furniture and as draperies are in the royal shade of red. The Secretariat's rooms. The second room after the Med Hall to the right is the Clerk's Hall, also referred to as the Tiled Room. The largest painting in the palace collection, a depiction of the Sara procession by Stefano Ussi, hangs on the left wall of this hall. Sara was used to refer to the caravans which traveled from Istanbul to Mecca during the religious month of Recep, bearing the monetary aid used to support the maintenance and the decoration of the Kaaba and to provide financial assistance to the local population of Hejaz. On the wall to the right is a painting signed by Rudolf Ernst depicting the fire at the Paris Municipal Theatre and another painting of a Dutch village girl by Delandre, decorated with French-style furniture. This room also contains very valuable porcelain vases. Ataturk's room. Mustafa Kemal Ataturk spent the last days of his life in the palace as his health deteriorated. He died at 9:05 a.m. on November 10, 1938, in a bedroom located in the former harem section of the palace. All the clocks in the palace were stopped and set to 9:05 after his death. Although this has changed recently, and the clocks outside of his room are now set to the actual time in Turkey, the clock in the room where he died is still pointing to 9:05 a.m. Gates. Gate of the Sultan. Gate of the Treasury. Gate to the Bosphorus. Adjacent buildings. A number of further residential buildings are located near the palace, including the Palace of the Crown Prince, the quarters of the gentlemen-in-waiting, the dormitories of the servants and of the guards, the quarters of the chief eunuch. Further buildings include imperial kitchens, stables, an aviary, a plant nursery, a flour mill, a greenhouse, a hareek carpet workshop, a glass manufactory, a foundry, a pharmacy, etc. A Baroque-style mosque designed by Garabet Balian was built near the palace in 1853 to 1855. It was commissioned by Queen Mother Bezmi Alam Valide Sultan. Since 1948, the building housed the Naval Museum, but the museum was moved to another location in 1960 after the coup d'état of May 27. In 1967, the mosque was returned for worship. A clock tower was erected in front of the Treasury Gate on a square along the European waterfront of Bosphorus next to the mosque. The tower was ordered by Sultan Abdul Hamid II and designed by the court architect Sarkis Balian between 1890 and 1895. Its clock was manufactured by the French clockmaker house of Jean-Paul Garnier, and installed by the court clockmaster Johann Mayer. Literature. Usul, Asan, Sema Wana. Dolmabahçe Palace. Istanbul. TBMM National Palaces Trust. Asan, Boogya 5C8. Arkat, Usul. The Dolmabahçe Palace. Istanbul. Keskin Color. Asan, Boogw7QYA. Usul, Asan. Dolmabahçe Palace. Istanbul. TBMM Department of National Palaces. ISBN 975-747-942-X. Gulasoy, Seluk. Dolmabahçe Palace and its environs. Istanbul. Istanbul Kitaplagi. p. 257. ISBN 978-975-7687-03-0. Keskin, NACI. The Dolmabahçe Palace. Istanbul. Keskin Color. Asan, B0000SH36M. Dolmabahçe Palace. Istanbul. Duygu Yayınları. 1998. Asan, B000E1S490. İskender Parla. The Jewel on the Bosphorus. Dolmabahçe Palace. TBMM Milli Sarayları, Istanbul, 2006. İhsan Usul, Sema Wana. Yazar Yılmaz, Cengiz Gönkü, Hakan Gülsun. Dolmabahçe Palace. TBMM Milli Sarayları, Istanbul, 2005. İpek Photos. European Lights in Dolmabahçe Palace. TBMM Milli Sarayları, Istanbul, 2007.